You can now subscribe and save 20% every single time you get your Strava Craft coffee sent straight to your door. We know a bunch of you have taken advantage of the one-time code, and you can now save 20% off your favorite coffee forever. You'll never have to put in your credit card info again, and you can have it sent straight to your door every 2, 3, 4, 6, or 8 weeks. Never have that freak out when you wake up and you got a meeting in the morning and you need your Java boost and you realize you don't have your coffee. That'll never happen when you have a Strava Craft coffee subscription. So sign up and save 20% off every single time, or you can still use that magical code DNVR20 to make sure you get 20% off your first order, and then you'll realize how much you love it, and then you will sign up for a Strava Craft coffee subscription. So check them out and use that code DNVR20 when you check out, or get that subscription set up and save 20% off every time, no matter what. All right, welcome in to the DNVR Broncos podcast presented by MSU Denver Online. Now's the time to apply and register for classes. Spring semester starts January 19th, and you can get all set up with your MSU Denver Online education. It is a awesome program over there. It's affordable, it's rigorous, and you got professors who bring the real world into the classroom. So check out msudenver.edu/online today. Scope out all they have to offer. 40-plus hybrid programs, 750 classes. There's really something for everyone down at MSU Denver. So check out msudenver.edu/online.
My boys, what's up, man? This is a feel-good Friday, Bum Talk Friday, and on this snowy day in the Mile High City, all I can say to you guys is aloha.
Aloha indeed. A little Hawaiian shirt Friday. Perfect weather outside for Hawaiian shirts. Probably going to pull out the beach chairs after this and go out and catch some rays in the snowy Denver weather.
Hey, aloha means goodbye. Goodbye to another week of the NFL season, and goodbye to 2020 in a few weeks. But it also means hello. Hello to bold clothing choices, and hello to a very fascinating matchup in a lot of ways, gentlemen.
Yes, and I want to quickly give a shout out to our guy Dalton, who hooked it up with several packages of gourmet mac and cheese. We had a conversation on this podcast a couple weeks ago about who has the best mac and cheese. Of course, in Mace's daughter's eyes, there's nothing that can beat Kraft mac and cheese. I've always been an Annie's mac and cheese guy. Well, we've got a new candidate. I can't pronounce the name, but it looks exciting. So we'll all have to try out one of those and come back with our rankings of where it fits. Big shout out to Dalton. Thank you for sending that to us.
Dalton hooking it up. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I want to make sure I get some of it, because I do want to see what my daughter thinks of it and see if maybe we can crack the lock that Kraft macaroni and cheese has on her heart and taste buds. I want her to kind of expand her palate a little bit. I know she's only 8, but yeah, try some different things. So Dalton, appreciate it. I know I'll love it. Not sure about my daughter, but I know I will.
Ryan, you're getting a lot of compliments about the blindingness of your shirt, and I absolutely love it. I love both of your shirts today, especially in this weather. And it just reminds me of when I was in high school. I got these bright green Nike shoes and wore them to class. And I actually bought the shoes right next to Troy Tulowitzki in the downtown Nike store. Yeah, when that was still there. But I wore them to school, and my teacher goes, "Wow, Zach, those are some really blinding shoes." And I said, "Thank you." And she said, "Not in a good way." I was like, "Whoa, that was rude." But you know what? That's a very blinding shirt in a good way, Ryan.
Thank you. I'm glad that you appreciate my shirt more than Miss Johnson liked your shirt or your shoes. I have to say I'm a big fan of Mace's shirt. It looks the most expensive of the three of us.
Oh, I don't know about that. I don't know the price on this, but I didn't pay for it. But it is an exceedingly comfortable shirt. If it were warm outside, it would be perfect. In fact, I think it was 3 years ago when the Broncos were playing down in Miami, and I flew, with the team, flew down on Friday, and I spent the entire Saturday near the beach wearing this shirt, going to a couple of bars, watching some football, having some seafood. So I got some fond memories in this shirt too. It's also a Christmas shirt. I don't know if it shows up, but yeah, there's right here. There's Santa Claus riding a Marlin.
Wow. Couldn't pick that up.
Yeah.
That just that makes me say Melakaliki Maka, boys.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Zach, a very cultured man.
Well done.
Anyways, Broncos got a big game this Sunday. We talked earlier in the week about what's the best thing for the Broncos to win or lose. But in the end, it comes down to Drew Lock. The result of the game won't matter as much if we don't get some sort of clarity on Drew Lock. And that's my biggest worry about this game, is that it'll be some tight, low-scoring game. The Broncos pull it out late, and maybe Drew Lock is 16 of 24 for 199 yards and one touchdown, one interception. We just walk away being like, what do we do with this? But the headline here is more about the game plan. So with the fact in mind that we feel really strongly that we need to get some clarity on the game plan. Where do you guys start? Or sorry, we need some clarity on Drew Lock. Where do you guys see on offense the game plan should be?
Well, I think they're going to try to do what they did against the Chiefs, and that's run the ball. And, I hope that they go with the hot hand at running back. And, hopefully both of the guys are in the, 5-6 yards per carry average. But I think that's what they're going to do, because they found success with it against the Miami Dolphins. And, of course, Drew wasn't there in the next game. And then they found success with it again against the Chiefs. But they're going to have to finish, and it's going to come down to not having turnovers in the end zone like the Broncos, or in the red zone like Drew Lock did, throwing the pick on the 10-yard line against the Chiefs. If he doesn't do that, maybe the Broncos win, and that's going to be key again for the Broncos. So I think that they're really going to put this on the running game this game.
Yeah, and it makes sense to do what you do best, and I think that's kind of what this comes down to here, guys. Is how do you have a game plan that first and foremost tries to win the game? That, in other words, focuses on your core strengths. And what we've seen in the Miami and Kansas City games is that if you keep the ball on the ground, that you extend your chance to win, you give your defense a chance to breathe. Everything flows from there. It's not a sexy game plan. The Broncos have run more often in the last 3 games than anybody else. And even if you take out that Saints game, guys, they've run more often than all but 4 other teams in the NFL since the Miami game. So they found something that works. I think you stick with it, and you're still trying to rebuild Drew Lock's confidence. Maybe what you expect this week is run a similar game plan, but tell Drew, look, if you're in a situation, again, like you were in on that first drive, you've got to learn to take the short man who's open rather than push it downfield. It's a decision-making game in terms of evaluating Drew Lock. You want to evaluate his decision-making on the fly.
Yeah, the Pat Shurmur offense loves to get kind of those levels concepts going,
right?
Where you've got something coming underneath, something above it, going across, and I'd like to see them call a lot of those in with an emphasis on Drew saying, hey, start in front of you, work your way further down the field, and try and, force him into doing the right, reading the field the right way. Now, again, the way that the quarterback reads the field oftentimes comes back to coaching. So if they're telling him read the field deep to shallow, well, then that's a problem in itself. But I'd love to see them kind of, I'd love to see them try to put Drew in the exact same situation in which he threw that pick in KC and just say, take the wide open route right in front of your face, please, and work their way from there. I think they are going to run the ball a lot, but they're obviously going to throw the ball at times. I'd like to see them do that. I'd like to see them utilize play action for some deep balls, and that could even be, 20-yard ins or over routes, to give him a chance to push the ball down the field. But you can use his strengths, you can use the team's strengths, and also try to put him in situations where you're saying, last week you messed this up, let's do it right this time.
Yeah, so what are we looking for from Drew? What's a game, or what are expectations? Realistic expectations. Because if he comes out and has a Houston game from last year, of course that's going to be fantastic. Everyone's going to love that. But kind of where is your threshold for saying, okay, that was progress for Drew?
I'm still looking for that 0 interception game. To be honest, like we said earlier in the week, if Drew Lock can finish the season with 7 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, that'll get him to a positive touchdown to interception ratio, which, not a great one. That'll get him to 16 to 15, which is not where you want to be by any means, but it just feels a hell of a lot better than even 14 to 15. And you can certainly point to down the stretch saying, okay, he finished with 7 to 2. He kind of started getting it. He started not forcing the ball into places where he didn't need to force it. So that's going to start. I mean, there's 4 games left. If you're going to throw 2 interceptions in 4 games, that means you got to have at least 2 with 0 interceptions. That's what I'm looking for, Drew. 0 interceptions, and obviously you want to see the 60% completion rate, and I'd like to see 2 or more touchdowns.
Bingo. And I'm not as fixated on the touchdowns. I'd like to see touchdown drives. So, for example, if the Broncos have 3 touchdown drives and they're not garbage time drives, kind of like against the Falcons, then that's a positive. I'm glad you mentioned 60% because I know it's something to be kind of fixated on, but that's the minimum he's got to do. He needs to string together some 60% games, and then, like you said, the clean game in interceptions. Can we just get back to a clean game, no picks, and I think that's the kind of thing that would be a building block. We're looking here, and it's kind of frustrating. I'm like that first possession on Sunday. The first thing I thought to myself when he threw that ball to Fumagalli was, after, what are you doing, Drew? It's, well, he's not going to have a clean game this week. He really needs that clean game in terms of picks, desperately.
Yeah, when he threw that ball to Troy Fumagalli, I was thinking, oh, Drew, what the Fumagalli are you doing there? But no, you guys are spot on. 60%. And no interceptions. The last time Drew didn't have an interception in a game, not counting the Pittsburgh Steelers game, you have to go back to week 1. We're entering the final quarter of the season right now. That can't happen. You cannot do that in the NFL. And guys, the other number that I'm looking for is kind of a mix of both of what you said, and that is 20 or more points on the scoreboard. Drew has played in 8 full games this season. The Broncos have 3 games where they've scored 20 or more points. Guys, we should be saying that about 30-point games in a season in today's NFL, not 20-point games. So I need to see that happen, because then it'll mean that what Mace said about Drew's leading touchdown drives, or maybe what Ryan said, that Drew actually has 2 touchdowns in a game. So that's I need to see that. That's a minimum threshold here. And the Panthers are giving up 25 points per game. And so I'm trying to be realistic. I'm not saying you have to score 25. Get 21 points. And guys, getting more than 21 points will win the Broncos this game, with the way the defense is. And also the Carolina Panthers have not won a single game this season in which their opponent has scored 22 points or more. That's not a lot to ask from your offense.
It's really not. Now, my follow-up is, do you think Drew Lock will do that?
No, I think now the points, yes, I do. Not to tip my hat there, but the interceptions, a clean game, I don't see it happening. I mean, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me 10 times or 8 times this year, shame on you. So I'm not going to fall for that. I do think now, so realistically, with that in mind, I'm saying Drew needs to have more touchdowns than interceptions, 2-1.
Okay. Mace, do you think he's going to hit your thresholds?
Oh, you know what? I actually think he's going to hit the threshold on interceptions, because he's facing a defense that doesn't do a lot in terms of picking off passes. Now, Carolina's going to force some fumbles. Okay, they will do that. This is a team that does try to strip the ball, does try to get the ball out. But guys, looking over the course of the season, they only have 5 interceptions all year. 5 picks. So I think this is a game where Drew has that clean game in terms of interceptions. And you know what? I may be kicking myself for that prediction a couple of possessions in if he comes out and throws an early pick once again. But it's the 60% that I think is what's in question, and that's on him. That's on him being settled. That's on him having good footwork. That's on him being able to effectively complete those short to intermediate passes, because what we still see from Drew Lock way too often is missing throws that you should be able to make in your sleep if you're a starting NFL quarterback.
Yeah. So I guess this spoils my 58-yard field goal, but my 58-yard field goal is going to be that Drew Lock doesn't throw an interception, and that certainly shouldn't be involved in the 58-yard field goal section, but it has been. I think it fits. So I think that the offense as a whole is just going to be a little bit vanilla this week, and it worries me just a bit because I do think there's going to be some inconclusive feelings after the game, and we're going to say, well, there's 3 games left. And every week we lose another game off of that ability for Drew Lock to show something. But I do think that's going to be. They're really going to ask Drew to take care of the ball this week, and I think he's going to be able to do it. I just don't think it's going to be great for the overall evaluation. So I think he ends up having a pretty simple, easy, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions, sub 200 yards, fairly accurate game. And we say okay, well, that's a start, but it still, can you do that against legitimate teams? Because whatever, you were in control of the game from start to finish because you were running the ball very well or something along those lines.
Yeah, and I totally agree with everything, Ryan. And my Vic Fangio false positive alarms are just going crazy in my head right now because you know what? We wouldn't be able to knock Drew for throwing for 190, 1 touchdown, no picks, 60% completion because it honestly would be a step forward. It would be progress. He wouldn't have the interception. He'd hit the 60% mark. But so we'd be saying it's progress, but then taking a step back. Well, is this something that he can not just build on and do for a second week in a row, but is this something that is showing that he can become that 250-yard, 2 touchdown, no interception, put the team on his back, score 28 points in a shootout? I put that in air quotes, but when he needs to, or is this something where you better be playing a 4-8 Carolina Panthers with 10 guys on the COVID list without Christian McCaffrey and your defense balls out and you put up 22 points and win 22-21, something like that. So that's gosh, I don't want to say that's a bad territory to be in because Drew does take a positive step, but it is a little scary territory.
Yeah, it is. We're going to talk about the plan on the defensive side of the ball, but first, I want to ask anyone who's watching on YouTube, hit us with a like, hit us with a subscribe. We always appreciate that. And also, if you're watching on Periscope and the stream quality isn't very high, try us out on YouTube. YouTube, a little bit better on the streaming side of things. So check that out and hit us with a like when you get over there. And also a comment, or you could subscribe. You can set up for alerts. So we always appreciate those. All right, on the defensive side of the ball, doesn't look like they're going to have to face Christian McCaffrey. And wow, what a gift that is.
It really is. And honestly, I'm bummed. I wanted to see Christian McCaffrey, especially because the way he's played this year has been phenomenal, but it hasn't helped the Panthers win. The Panthers are 0-3 in games in which he plays, and Christian averaging 125 yards from scrimmage in those games, 2 touchdowns per game. So, I mean, he's a heck of a player. Bummed to not be able to see him go up against his childhood team. But yeah, I do not expect him to play. I don't really see any scenario in which he plays.
Yeah, and Matt Rule basically, pardon the pun, ruled him out yesterday.
Nice.
Didn't expect, had to go there at some point, right? And I'll admit the pun was intended, at least subconsciously. I think to some degree, every pun is a pun intended. But in this game, guys, Teddy Bridgewater's where it starts for Carolina. Of course, a quarterback with Christian McCaffrey out, and he has actually been everything the Panthers hoped he would be this year. Has he been great? No. But he has been a middle-tier starter. He has stabilized the position. He gives the Panthers options going forward long term. He's a good leader. He's helped keep that locker room together, along with Matt Rule, who's really done a very nice job in his first year, even though the record doesn't quite reflect it. Now, if DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel, currently on the COVID reserve list, if they remain sidelined on Sunday, then between them and, of course, McCaffrey being out, they're hard pressed to have options. Now, that being said, Robbie Anderson is still definitely going to play, and the Broncos are compromised at cornerback, and we know what Robbie Anderson can do when he gets hot. Just go back to 2018, that game where the Jets trampled the Broncos on the ground, but it was also a big game for Robbie Anderson catching passes from Sam Darnold.
Yeah, shout out to Broncos Chief Communications Officer, Patrick Smythe.
Thanks, Patrick.
Thanks, Patrick.
Love it. Thanks, Pat.
Yeah,
I think Teddy Bridgewater is a pretty darn good pilot for this Panthers team. And we know it's all about pilots and planes in the NFL, and he's not good enough to be the plane. And I think that's what the Broncos have to do. You got to force him to be the plane in this game. And if you do that, I think you're going to end up being pretty happy with what happens on the defensive side of the ball. I think Shelby Harris has a chance to have a huge game. I'm excited to see him, play in this game. He was so good last week, and we said it after the game, like legitimately pay this man good against the Chiefs, because he was the most valuable player against the Chiefs in my opinion in that game. So I think he has a chance to have a big game. But if you can take away the run, and while it's no Christian McCaffrey, Mike Davis has been a pretty darn good player this year, and so it's not going to be easy. Obviously, Teddy also a threat on the ground. And he can make things a little bit more difficult, stretch your defense out a little bit. So I think if you can stop that rushing attack and force Teddy Bridgewater to beat you on 3rd and longs, you're going to be really, really happy with the way things turn out on the defensive side of the ball.
Teddy Bridgewater is extremely, extremely efficient, but Ryan, you nailed it. He is the pilot, not the plane. I believe he's had 2 first halves this season with a perfect passer rating, and he was not winning at halftime. I mean, that just shows you that, boy, he is the pilot, certainly not the plane. He forced him to take over the game in this game, and that shouldn't be too difficult. You said Mike Davis is really good, but he shouldn't be able to completely overtake a game on his own either. So prevent Teddy Bridgewater from hitting deep plays to Robbie Anderson and using his playmakers. This should just be a contained game. And then, guys, if the Broncos do that and they get in the red zone, the way they played the Chiefs in the red zone, I'll take my chances with the Broncos defense in the red zone every single time against this offense.
Of course, the thing that you worry about, though, is the cornerback position. And there were some red zone issues and there were some deep ball issues against Atlanta back last month when the Broncos, of course, had to play without A.J. Boye and Bryce Callahan. And now they're going to have Essang Bassey. So really, for all we talk about, it's an important game for Drew Lock on the offensive side. And we're going to be watching that closely. But this game may be decided by just how much Michael Ojemudia has grown in the last few weeks. Ed Donatel said at his press conference yesterday that sometimes when you get benched as a rookie, you learn, you watch a little bit, you grow. He said he saw that from Essang Bassey after he lost some playing time and eventually got it back, and has seen it on the practice field recently from Michael Ojemudia since, of course, Donatel came back from COVID-19. So, this is where you say the chain is as strong as its weakest link, and you figure Ojemudia is going to be one-on-one with Robbie Anderson, and this game could come down to just how much Ojemudia has improved. Is he tackling better? Is he doing better things in coverage? It looked like he lost his confidence a little bit. Has he been able to get it back? And
that's why I think of Robbie Anderson as potentially the game-changing player here, the X factor of this game.
Yeah.
And I think if winning was like, I don't know, if you were in a position where winning this game was really important for you, I might even consider bracketing him because I don't think you lose this game if you don't give up big plays. And he's obviously a big play machine. And the Broncos know all about losing a game just by giving up big plays to Robbie Anderson, because it happened to them in MetLife a couple of years ago against the Jets. Now, they also ran crazy all over the Broncos that day. But I think Robbie Anderson had 2 long catches, maybe 1 long touchdown, or maybe even 2 long touchdowns. And those plays are just absolutely backbreakers when your defense is holding up, and then they get 40 at a time when they haven't been able to get 4 at a time. So with that being said, I kind of want to give Michael Ojemudia that test. I want to give the secondary that test and say, hey, look, you guys are all getting an opportunity here. Go out there and prove it. Because, again, as we talked about earlier in the week, you've reached a point where winning this game doesn't really do all that much for you except make you feel good, which that's worth a lot, but it's not worth everything at this point in the season. You're in an evaluation stage. Getting that type of high-level evaluation of those guys might be worth it.
Yeah, I think so. And speaking of an evaluation of a guy, there's going to be a new guy on the field for the Broncos defense. Number 27, Will Parks. I think he's going to have a big role in this game. We know from yesterday that he's playing on every single special teams unit, which is pretty incredible doing when you come in the building for the first time on Wednesday and you're doing that on Sunday. And I also think on defense, he's going to have a big role. He's going to bring so much energy to this defense. And man, with him flying around, I wouldn't be surprised if he makes a big play for the Broncos this week.
I wouldn't be either. And the thing is, you look at your options there for that nickel back. That guy is going to play in the slot, but also kind of move around and be in the box sometimes. He's by far the best option, even though he's just recently shown up. I know that Vic Fangio earlier in the week mentioned Duke Dawson and mentioned Kevin Tolliver. I don't care that Will Parks hasn't been in the building for the last several months, guys. I'd rather have him in that role.
Yeah, I mean, Zach, you use the phrase flying around. Mm-hmm. That's what I expect to see. Will Parks just playing with his hair on fire. That's what he normally brings, but I think he's going to have an extra pep in his step this week. Really excited to see it. It was so great to see him in the press conference the other day, just bring those positive vibes. I think it was Mark Kisla who asked him that question about, how he's, the most relentlessly positive person he's seen in a while. And that's Will Parks. This team needs it. He's going to be doing everything he can to not only bring some positive vibes before the game, but to help this team have some positive vibes after the game. Really excited to watch Will go to work in this one. All right. We will get to our predictions for the game in the AFC and the rest of the AFC West on the other side, which means the podcast side of things. So if you want to hear that, make sure you download our podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts. And we'll obviously get to all the comments from the subscribers. So stay tuned for that. But for the live side of things, that wraps it up for us for this week. We'll catch you guys after the game.